Hey guys, it's Jessica and welcome back to another Kindred Stamps design team video. Today I'm going to be using the Demon Hunters stamp set and I wanted to play around with some Shrinky Dinks. I haven't used this material in quite a long time and I thought it would be really interesting to see if I could make my own like little shaker bits. This is a combination of using Shrinky Dink material and making a shaker card. So let's get into it. So I'm first going to use the characters that come in the Demon Hunter stamp set. There's these 3 characters. One of them has wings, which is really cute, and a really awesome car. This is like my dream car. I'm also going to be using some of the sentiments from the Demon Hunter set, and then the sentiment that says emotionally attached to fictional characters, which does fit this very well for me. So after I got everything stamped, I'm going to go ahead and grab out the Shrinky Dink material that I have been talking about. And this is what the pack that I got looks like. It's basically just a plastic sheeting and it's pure white or bright white. I also bought some StazOn ink since the stuff that I have is actually dried up, so I had to go get a new one. This stuff smells so weird, so make sure you are in a well-ventilated area because you will be using the StazOn ink, which is a solvent ink, so it has quite a bit of a smell. And you're also going to be melting plastic, so that does put off a bit of a weird smell too. So I'm just taking an acrylic block and going to stamp on this plastic sheet. You do have to be very careful because when you stamp it down, it tends to want to slip and slide. So the first one I did is a little wonky because my hands just automatically slid down a little bit. And then the other ones are a little bit better, but you're not going to get a lot of fine details with this either. So that's one thing that I found was if you used a stamp positioning tool, like the travel stamp platform that I often use, you do get a better impression, but I wanted to make a lot of these and I just want to really make them quick. So that's why I stamped them out by hand using an acrylic block. I'm also going to add just a few details with Copic markers. I'm using the C5 marker for the wheels. I just wanted those to be a little bit darker. And then I'm going to add a bit of yellow to the headlights. Honestly, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference because it's going to shrink down so much anyways, so you lose a lot of those details again. And Copic markers are not the best to be using with StazOn ink. I've heard that they can ruin your tips or your nibs of the marker, so be aware of that if you're going to use your Copics. I would probably use Sharpies if I had Sharpies. You really can't get any precision blending or coloring with this material. So now I can start fussy cutting these out. I'm just going to use my Fiskars scissors, and that was like a combination of Fiskars and scissors. So I'm just going to use those scissors because I have a lot of cars to cut out, and these are the easiest on my hand to use. I also did not wait long enough, or I had a lot of ink on these car images. I'm not sure because they weren't fully dry, and this is a couple minutes afterwards. I probably would have stamped the cars like the day before and just let it dry overnight. That probably would have been a little bit more helpful. And when you're using the Copic markers, if you actually touch the black ink of the StazOn, it will come off. So don't try to rub over the black lines because you'll just smear that black ink everywhere. So just a little note there. So once I have all my cars fussy cutted out, I'm going to melt these down. And what I'm going to be using is a Wagner tool. That's the heat tool that I have. So the other tools I'm using is glass media mat because it is heat resistant. And I have a large acrylic block that I'm going to use to help smush down the Shrinky Dinks once they are fully melted. That way they don't curl up and it just makes them very flat. And I also have a metal spatula. So kind of ignore what I'm doing with the spatula this time around because I was trying to figure it out This time I kind of chased that Shrinky Dink car all over the glass media mat, and it did some really fun little twirls. So once I have it melted down to as far as it's going to shrink down to, I heat it up real quick again, and then I place that acrylic block over the top, and that just squishes everything down and makes sure it's nice and flat. So here you can see the different sizes of the car. This is the one that is already shrunk down, and then here is the original before the heat was brought to it. So I'm going to do this a couple more times. I just do the same thing with all the cars that I cut out. It's easier if you hold down the Shrinky Dink on one side and melt it, and then swap places. So hold down the other side that was already melted and then melt the other side. I didn't keep them all because some of them did have those fingerprints on them and they were pretty obvious. So those ones I just decided were defective and got rid of them. But I did have quite a few left over to make the shaker card. Alright, so off screen I did go ahead and take a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock and use some Distress inks, the original Distress inks. I used the colors Pumice Stone, Hickory Smoke, and Black Soot to make that tree background using the Kindred Stamps 4 stencil. I love that stencil. It's probably one of my most used ones now. And then I used a circle die to cut out the center part, and that's where you'll see all the shaker bits. So the whole point of a shaker card is to get your panel raised up, that way there's enough room inside to let those shaker bits shake around when you move your card. So to do that, I'm using some foam tape. This is just some old stuff that I've had for quite a while. You've seen it in a couple other videos that I've done. One thing that I would change if I redid this one though is to make it a 3 stack. So I just doubled up my foam. I should have done it 3 times just to give it a little bit more height. That way the bits on the inside could shake around a little more freely, but it still works just fine. So I've just taken my foam adhesive, I've double stacked it, and then I cut it in half, and I'm just going to go right around the perimeter of the card. I've already attached a piece of clear cardstock from Paper Tray ink underneath that 4 stencil so that the circle is covered. I'm also going to use this powder that's anti-static. It's great for shaker cards to use on the inside. So now I can just start adding all my shaker bits to it. I put several of the cars inside, and then I also added some shaker bits from the Shaker Packs by Kindred Stamps from A Bit Spotted and Space Heroes. I really like the blue and the purples in this shaker pack, so I used that one. And now I can just take off that adhesive backing on that foam tape and carefully add on the 4 stenciled panel with the circle in it. So off screen I did add a scallop circle that I've actually had floating around my craft room for quite a while. It was just like this extra piece from something that I never used, and it fit perfectly around this one. So for the characters, I went ahead and I colored them off screen. I will have all the colors that I used listed below if you're curious, but I did use mainly gray tones and then added in a bit of brown and then played off of those blue colors that I had stamped the nicknames in, which match I think very well with the Space Heroes Shaker Pack by Kindred Stamps. So that's where I got those colors from. So that is basically it. I'm going to add the characters and everything to the panel and then call this good. But I thought this was really fun. Just a fun idea. Shaker cards are very popular, and this is just another way to use your Kindred Stamps to make shaker cards or planner clips or whatever you want with Shrinky Dinks. So I know there's a really cool phone booth and that I need some space set. That would be awesome. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you give Shrinky Dink Shaker Bits a try with your Kindred stamps. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Meh, meh.